What is up, everybody? How's it going? We are back for episode number 4 of the Asian Goalie Show here. Saturday. What a week. What a month so far. Are you guys excited? Because I'm so excited because just knowing that first month just flew by. I don't know if you guys feel that way. I just flew by. But what I'm also very happy is I already have my 4th guest in this show, and like so much nice things that we have shared with all other 3 guests, and now I have another guest who also have a very different background too, compared to the 3 other guests that I have. So every month we'll have a theme. This month will be the last episode of this theme, which is myths about recreational hockey. Anyone who is tuning in right now live, you guys will be part of this conversation. Like, yes, me and my guests would be talking majority of the time, but if you comment in the section, you want to participate in the conversation that we have, feel free to comment, and we will also set up polls every now and then based on the topics we covered. You can also contribute to your thoughts on that particular topic that we're covering. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest today for the show. His name is Kett. He's played 15 years as a skater before he transitioned into a goalie for 6 years. So he has tons of experience in playing hockey in different level, as well as he has been around players and people who have played like college hockey as well. So main topic today, what we're going to cover is beer league hockey as competitive as college hockey or not? Yes or no, right? So you might have some thoughts on that. So comment in the comment box and chat box and let us know what your thoughts on that as well. All right, Kett, are you with us?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on here, Felix.
Perfect. So great to have you here. Like, we were just having a blast just talking for the last like 20 minutes or so, and really get to understand yourself. This is our first time meeting each other. I think you're a great guest for a lot more episodes that to come. Like, we're just like, oh my god, I want to know this, I want to you do that. I was like, oh my god, that's cool. So Kett, why don't we kind of start talking about kind of we know you have a lot of experience in hockey in different levels. Like, maybe give us a brief understanding kind of what your background is before and now you're playing recreational hockey.
Um, yeah, I've been with hockey for a very, very long time as a very mediocre hockey player. Um, I played a lot of I played through the Calgary Minor Hockey Association for probably about 15 or so years. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say 15 or so years, probably about 12 or so years there. Now I think about it, and yeah, I did that as just as kind of a recreational side of it. Not super competitive. Didn't play with any of the double AAA side. Did that as a skater. Um, and after I was done that, I took a break from hockey for a little bit and got invited, uh, kind of kind of back after hitting up some of the outdoor rinks and ball hockey scene and stuff like that to restart my hockey journey as a goaltender, and I've been loving that ever since. Haven't really had any need to go back out and skate more than once or twice a year.
Awesome. Like, I have already quite a few questions that I want to ask. Um, were you ever kind of get into, like, when you say you're not very competitive, like, were you ever dream about, like, oh, when you're skaters you want to become the competitive players, or you never thought of that?
Um, I'd love to have gone further as a hockey player. Of course, I mean I
Yeah.
love playing hockey. If I could do that for a living, I would do that for a living. Just didn't have that skill level, didn't have that time commitment towards it, and it's but playing now is still a blast. Like, as everybody knows in beer league who plays it, it's you can't walk away from it no matter what your skill level is. It's too much fun.
Yeah. What is that world like when you were kind of young, you're playing skaters? Like, is that always kind of the thoughts of like, oh, I need to get better, like I need to get to this level, I want to get to the next level? Like, what is that mindset in compared to what you have now with beer league hockey?
I think there's different mindsets that people are gonna have going into that.
Hmm.
For me, I always wanted to be that player that left their heart and soul on the ice. I would go into every corner. I would chase every puck, and if no matter what size of guy I went after, I went right up, right after them, and I dug that puck out for my team and tried to find a way to contribute every single game. Um, that's probably not always necessarily the best mindset if you're looking to improve. Sometimes you want to be like, well, I need to try something. I need to push my limits. I need to test my skills. And one of the things I learned a lot about when I got out of minor hockey and started hitting like the outdoor rinks, I ran into some very good hockey players, and I was sitting there like, man, I have well over a decade of experience playing hockey, and I can hardly keep up with these guys. Look at how they stick handle. Look at how they pass. And more and more I had to kind of transition my mindset from being that grinding player, that person that's just gonna, push on every shift, to being, you know developing my skills and trying to think, well, I really want to be able to do some things with the puck that I see other people do, and work to get better. So it's, there's a couple different mindsets you can go in with. I think I may have got in with the wrong one, but I had a hell of a time going in with that mindset because, man, you get into some
Hmm.
battles.
That's interesting to know because I also have like this is kind of the thing that I found when I play recreational hockey is well, first of all, I never played minor hockey. I literally started when I was 24. So the reason why I asked those questions, I want to really understand. Like, I asked this question on Reddit as well. I'm like, what is that main difference between people who played minor hockey before versus people who are playing beer league hockey? Because I know a lot. I wouldn't say I know a lot. I would say I know a little bit uh, about kind of my team. Sometimes I found them they're very casual. Like they're just like, oh yeah, win or lose doesn't care. But I'm the one who's like you said, like if I'm not chasing every single puck, I always quote unquote try hard. I just wanna make sure I play well and improve, right? So it's good to hear kind of your experience on that and see how you compare that to now with beer league hockey.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. I think there's lots of differences you see with people coming into beer league versus people going through the minor system, because when you're playing minor hockey, it's, so you've got different mindsets probably instilled on you by different parents, different
Yeah.
expectations on where you're going to go with it and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure most beer leaguers have accepted they're not making it to the show.
That's I guess it's like from the way I see it, is also it could be very competitive to get to that level where you can play like professional. That's something that I personally never. It's almost like a dream that I know I would never achieve, but like if I get a chance to play like formal professional hockey, despite what level it is, I would love the competitiveness in there. Versus
Yeah.
sometimes the level that I got into, sometimes it's very good, sometimes really bad. It's just like it's not consistent enough that way. So and that's why I really think that's the one of the biggest reason I when I first come to beer league hockey is I felt like, oh, is beer league hockey is really competitive, because I think I got a lot of impression from the NHL level, the even the college level. It's just like I thought there's a high bar of entry. Like it's really hard to get in. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I think that hockey has this culture to it where, especially, Canadian hockey, look at the history where you talk about guys playing at the high level and they go like, man, these guys they're just reckless. They just go out there, they'll ram into each other at 100 miles an hour, and
Really?
they try to gut out a victory any way, shape, or form. And a lot of times with hockey at the high level, it's not, we see it in the NHL. There's much more variety in terms of which team wins versus loses, despite one team
Hmm.
having more skill than another, because you can get some bounces and you can just work to get that puck where you need it to be, rather than having to be the most skilled team on the ice, outwork the other team. And that's more true in hockey than it is for other sports. And I think that's what
Hmm.
kind of scares people off a bit when they see
Yeah.
that level of competitiveness. You know,
Yes.
you're
I think that's what my parents always say, like, why are you playing hockey? It's so dangerous. I'm like, well, you got to see how we play in the recreational level. Then you can tell whether it is really dangerous or not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this I think this is the best time to ask this question, right? Like, what? Okay, what triggers you to go from being a skater for 15 years, and you come back recreational hockey, become a goalie? Like, what is that transition? Why did you decide to do that?
Um, I think growing up it was one of those things where as a kid I wasn't when you go to goalie you really make a commitment in a lot of different ways. I'm sure you've probably run into this, but over the course of the season, if you're going to look
Mm.
at your team's roster in beer league and say, well, who misses the fewest games, it's always going to be your goaltender,
Oh yeah.
unless they're playing on two different teams, in which case they're only missing for other hockey games. Um, and you don't get to do a lot of the stuff that you want to. You're not this kid that wants to go out and they want to be like, oh, I want to score this big goal, I want to throw this big hit or something like that. Your dream isn't like going into a triple overtime winning the game for your team. Your dream is going into that triple overtime and stealing the dream away from some other kid if you're a goalie. So it's a very different kind of mindset, and you have to really be committed to all I want to do is be the best at stopping the puck. And
Mm.
that's it was something that I was always interested in becoming a goalie as a kid, but I don't think I was able to. I was a little bit more ADD. I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this on the ice. Like, I don't want to be stuck in that blue paint all day. And once I got out of that kind of mindset, I was just like, well, what do I have the most fun doing? And let's settle into that, and let's become the best I can be there. And that was goaltending. That was the most fun aspect of the game to me. And I don't necessarily miss the other parts so much.
Yeah, I have the same question that Chris has in the comment. What is it? What is it really like when you go from skater to goalie? Like, what's the biggest difference, or how it likes? Is it weird? Is it like, oh, that's what I'm expecting? Like, what kind of thoughts do you have on that?
Oh, it's very weird. It's I don't know. I think again it's one of those things where my skill level as a player probably not being as high as I would have liked it to be probably hurt the transition a little bit. But when you're playing as a goalie and you're kind of learning about moving post to post, getting out, getting back, you cut so hard with your edges, and you have to be so good with them that skating as a player doesn't always translate as well. Like, you have that balance, you have that confidence on your feet, which makes it a lot easier for me than someone who's just starting. But I
Mm.
still have to kind of relearn how I want to dig my edges into the ice, and how much momentum I can generate from a stop, and just make those short, quick movements. It's very different that way. Handling the puck, I don't know about you, Felix, but as a goalie, I like moving to the Turco grip, which is very unnatural coming from a
Yep,
player.
me too.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and the Turco grip is the way to go,
yeah,
definitely. If
I
anybody's
agree.
watching
Turco
and
grip,
needs tip on that,
yeah.
go for.
Turco grip for the win, yeah.
Oh yeah, learn the Turco grip. Use that. Don't go with the player grip. You're gonna get so much more power
Yeah.
out of moving to that. Oh yeah.
Um, what is the I like the way you kind of explain the the edge and all that. Like, I think the difference for me from what I see, it's most of the time. I think the biggest difference between goalie and skaters, if I were to explain in my own words, in terms of skating, is goalie. You have the aspects of going down and going up a lot of time, and you have to very fast go from one side to the other. Player, you don't really have that. You just kind of have to anticipate where the puck is, and you just kind of get in your position and wait for it. More of the skill is more on the puck handling, the movement, getting yourself in position. I think the skate work is very different than goalie, right? Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say It's quite a bit. I think the higher level you go, the better players use their edges. Like I really find that that's the difference between like a professional player and a recreational player. Professional
Mm.
skaters can work their edges, they can turn on a dime, and they can generate so much power from a standstill. And when you watch like the NHL guys, when you see someone make a deke that breaks someone's ankles and you watch their feet on that deke, like they are stopped and go into a completely different direction. And it's very hard to do, and it's very very exhausting. And you really earn a lot of respect for those professionals because man, they're so good on their edges. Oh,
One of the quote that I hear recently was, and I think I agree, but I want to hear your thoughts because you just have the experience of being a skater for so long. They said only goalies can appreciate what goalie does, like how hard it is as a goalie, like or what it feels to be a goalie, like, to appreciate the work and the everything, right? Like what's the thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's the case, or you kind of like, oh, I know how goalie exactly
absolutely.
feel?
Oh, absolutely. I think you have to play the position in order to really appreciate what's going on with it. I think it's so easy. It's if we're going to the myth theme of this month, I think it's a really easy myth to get into that goalies are just there to block the puck, and the bigger you are, the
Mm.
better you are at goalie, and all that kind of stuff. And once you get into the position and you start understanding, like, oh man, I need to be pad to the ice, flush with the ice, or that puck's coming underneath me every single time, or
Yeah.
I need to make sure there's no holes on the side where they're shooting that puck, and I've got to watch that puck come to my glove, to my blocker, or it's just going in. It's you have to be there.
What is the most difficult thing about goalie that you find that you have? Like, what's the most difficult part?
Oh, I think there's a lot. I think goalie's a very mental game. Like you're not doing things the same way that players are. Where if you're a player and you have a bad shift, you just go out there and you work harder on the next shift, and you can kind of get into that mindset of I can just push myself harder, and things will work out for me as a player. I can fix my mistakes very quickly. As a goalie, when you're fighting the puck, you have to really deconstruct what is going wrong with your game right now. Why are you seeing the puck differently than you would in a game where you're feeling nice with it? Where everything's kind of going into your glove, everything's going into your pad versus everything in the back of your net. Like you really have to forget about the thought process of I'm going to overreact to this to make it happen next time,
Mm.
and just rebuild your game from a very centered point and be okay. This is what makes me successful. Let's get back to these things and let's go.
That's really if I'm interpreting what you're saying right, is that because if I compare it to myself to a player, the biggest difference, one of the biggest difference is I'm always on the ice. Player, you will have time when you're on the bench. You
Yeah.
kind of cope with whatever happened during the ice. But like goalie, you like if you're letting a goal, you literally have to just snap out of it like in seconds, like because the play will come to you again, right? So it's like, how can you adjust that mentally? That's very well said there. I think it's not a lot of people realize that kind of stress of um like when I'm on the ice, I let it go, or even making a save. Like, how do you get? I mean, maintain that feeling of like, oh yeah, I just make a good save, and then like not be cocky about it and not think about, oh yeah, I'm gonna make the next save. It's just like, to me, that mental game that you have on the ice directly contribute how good you are as well as kind of how fun it could be
Mhm.
when you're kind of dealing with that in the right way. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it's time for us to get into the main topic, and I think it's something that Kett has already kind of covered. It's leading into that question as well. It's the main topic is beer league hockey as competitive as college hockey? Kett, what's your thoughts on that topic?
Um, I think I think recreational hockey is a fundamentally different game than competitive hockey. and I think you kind of have to come at it from um, that standpoint where if you're playing competitive hockey, it's not necessarily that you're going to be um, emotionally pulled into the game as much as you just need to be. You kind of need to be in that goalie mentality for every player, where you have to find where you play your best game, and you need to work off of that in order to make sure that you're bringing your best to the ice every single night, and playing a very specific way for your coaches, for your team, so that you are playing around what they're expecting you to do. When it comes to recreational hockey, your team doesn't have that same kind of expectation of you, and
Yes.
as a result, it's what you're pouring into it is as competitive as you want to be, or as non-competitive as you want to be.
Very, very well said. I like the last part that you have is you can be as competitive as how you think you want to be. Like that to me is like super well said, because that's exactly how I feel when I'm in the game. It's like nobody. I think the biggest myth that I had was, oh, there will be people expecting me to be good especially as a goalie. Like, you only have one goalie in a team. You don't have a backup like you have in the minor hockey. Like, you literally are the only person there, and you have to show up on time. You have to make sure if you can't show up, you have to find a replacement, right? Like that kind of things that make me really feel that, oh, I'm such an important person in the team. I must do great. Like, the team's gonna expect me to be doing great. But what I found essentially is not just that. Like, it's all in my head. You can have as much fun as you want if you're just a goalie in on the ice. And once I get out of that mindset, I have so much more fun, like less stress, and I can still be as competitive as I want to, but I won't have the burden of, oh, the team wants me to be good. And in fact, what I found most of the time is people appreciate me to show up, just already, like, show up no matter how good I am. So do you have the same experience too, Kett?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's especially when you get started with beer league, or I don't know if have you been involved with any of those like rent a goalie experiences or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
I
that.
do.
Like,
Yes.
to me, like when you get recommended to a team that you've never seen before, or they're
Yeah.
they're trying to like pay you to play for them, and you're like, okay, so like how good do I have to be, or else like these
Yeah,
guys are gonna be
yeah.
pissed. And realistically, like the last time I got into a situation where I had to sub up on a day where I was, I had been up for 18 hours already that day working on a final project. Before I had to drive an hour across the city to get to the rink, I was
An
sick,
hour.
and
Holy crap.
yeah, it was a playoff game that they were having. They were about a division and a half up of what I'd been playing for, and the league had said, well, you can only pick a goalie from this list of 5 goalies to play in your playoff game, and the other 4 goalies had all turned them down. And I was in no condition at all to play, let alone play up a couple divisions. Went there and said, guys, you can't expect much out of me, but I'm here. Let's get this playoff game in. And yeah, I let in 6 pretty mediocre goals. Uh, the team somehow rallied to win 7-6, but
Oh.
in the long run, it wasn't the whole game, that reassurance of, man, we wouldn't be allowed to play without you being here. Like, just come here, do your thing, have some fun. Don't sweat it. We're gonna try to win this game, and if we win, great. If we lose, great. We're just happy to play.
I don't know if you have this kind of levels that you have I bet you are, because in Calgary, and I think like in Canada in general, I found there's a lot of, like, it's a wide range of levels they can get to. But like, uh my experience, I have ASXL, right? That's the kind of the local league. I think it's across Canada. Like almost all cities has it. I used to just play on the lowest div, right? Div E, and then within E, you have like E1A, E2C, and all that. I'm like, holy crap! Like, what does that even mean? And I remember I was about to sub in for a team, like, cause I was playing for in E for a long time, and a team in D wants me to, like, I was subbing in and I didn't know what level it was until I said, okay, I'm gonna come, and I was registering myself in the system. I was like, holy crap, is it Div D? I was like, oh my god, like, what does that look like? Like, am I going to do okay in that game? Because like it looks so much like it's like a one big diff like above. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna suck. I don't know what, like, all these kind of thoughts start to go into my head, and I'm like, oh, okay, I better do good. I better do good. But at the same time, it's just like, again, another example of I'm just overthinking. Like, go in and like, yeah, like the level is so much more fast, but at the same time, people are not, the mindset of expectation of you is not as competitive as you think. They just want to have a good game. They just want a goalie that try hard, like a goalie that really tries, but not like, easily pissed and it's just like, you know, it's not like, I'm definitely not that. I know I met some goalies like that before. They're just like fuck that shit. Like I'm not playing it. Like I met some goalies like that, but like I know I'm not one of those jerks. But once I do that, then now I'm playing like high D, low C. So it's like that mental barrier, once you break off, cool. Like it's nothing wrong with it, right?
Yeah, and I think you talked about it a bit with your last guest, where sometimes moving up can be easier on a goalie anyways. So you get all afraid that you're not going to be able to move up to the skill level, and then you find out, oh, now players move, they skate around the same speed that they shoot at, and my team plays a little bit more defense, and you don't always have to be so worried about moving up in rec hockey, especially. I think that's probably another good point for people to take away.
Very, very true. But I remember I still remember asking that question. I'm scrambling because I accepted that game like literally 12 hours before the game starts, and until I figure out the div, I'm like, oh my god, like who can answer me this question? Is it much more competitive? Like what should I do? Like am I supposed to like tell this guy like I can't do this? I still remember that moment. I was panicking. I was like, oh my god, like what am I getting myself into? Yeah, it was fun. Cool. Let's see if there's any comments in here. Chris said like beer league hockey is definitely more fun. And he also said he definitely sweat more at goalie than player. Is that true? Like, what do you think? Like, I never play out, but like, do you sweat a lot more as a goalie?
In the gear, I think might be part of it. When I started playing, I was using my my dad's old gear from the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, and as we get newer and newer gear, that stuff gets so light but I still find, compared to being a skater, if you're covered in all that stuff, I get so overheated. I don't know if that's true other people as well.
Yeah, I never got to compare really. I don't know, but I always my parents always kind of ask me like, are you moving out of the house or something? Because every time I carried the whole goalie bag and everything, it looks like I just packed up everything from home and I'm leaving the home. But yeah, it's fun. It's funny that way. One thing I want to ask the question about is I mean, this is my first time hearing you are actually a programmer, and you kind of talk about analytics in your entry point in the form. What do you think about beer league data? Is it something that you care a lot, or you're just kind of like, I hope it can be better? Like, what's kind of your attachment to analytics in beer league hockey in general?
I'm attached to the numbers when they look good for me, and then when they look bad for me, I get less attached. I think it's difficult because and this kind of talks about, it's a very different game when you play competitive hockey versus recreational hockey. It's a very different game when you play like an A level of beer league versus a C level of beer league versus an E level of beer league. And when you're the higher level you play as a goalie, the more your team kind of understands what kind of shots should be coming through, and even if the shooters are better, you're not necessarily facing harder shots. And I find the game just happens at a much more consistent rate the higher level I sub for. So when you look at your stats, you kind of have to factor in, well, what is what do those stats mean to me when I'm facing two breakaways that were 2-on-0s, and the shooter flubbed both shots into the opposite side of the net that they were going for. You know, like what was my ability to stop those compared to if I was going to play at a higher level and see 10 hard slap shots from the top of the circles and stop 9 out of 10 of those. It's you kind of look at it and you say, well, for me individually, the game that was on, this is kind of like an interesting fact I could pull out of it, but I can't really say that I was necessarily a great player because I put up a 970 in this game and I was a bad player because I put up an 820 in this game. It all depends on the context, and you kind of have to toss the stats. You can look at them in a grand. If you have enough data, you can look at them together and kind of make a comparison. But game to game, it's a crapshoot.
I agree. If you look at my stats in the AXHL system right now, it looks like a piece of crap. It's like go against like freaking like 10 or like 8 in average, just because I'm subbing a lot of team, and every time I sub in for a team, they are like just lack players, they're short players, and then, and then they're just outmatched by the other team. It's just like there's nothing I really can do about it. So it's like I really agree with you, like not having to take analytics too seriously. Like just take it with a grain of salt. Like just like, oh yeah, like, but like it's going back to that same freaking mindset that I used to have. It's like, oh, how would other people think about me when they look at my stats? Would they love me to be part of their team? Like again, like it's just like there's just so many factors that will contribute to your stats being good looking versus like in the competitive level, they can analyze whether like, oh, are you a good goalie based on the stats that you have. Sometimes it's just really not at all. In beer league hockey, it doesn't mean anything. Like I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah.
One more thing that I would love to kind of discuss a little bit. It's kind of out of the topic, but maybe we can link it back to the same topic again. Is you told me you were a ref before as a hockey game. Like what type of games do you ref?
This has been just minor hockey league programs. A lot of the kind of the same level that I played, but a few years younger than I was. And then I did some volunteer ref for Special Olympics Canada and stuff like that. But most of my reffing experience would be from the minor hockey Calgary.
So that would be like very competitive level.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't call it fairly competitive. It's still B level minor hockey. It's not into that A, double A, triple A kind of. But still people who want to win.
Yeah. What is that? What gets you into wanting to ref a game? Like, is it? I'm sure it's not just money related, but like, what is that kind of triggers you want to be a ref? Because I was a ref before in other sports. I have my own answer to that, but I want to hear yours.
I think when you're looking for that extra, when you're looking for that extra thing to do, picking up some money, and you go like, well, what do I enjoy? And it's like, man, I enjoy hockey. I want to be around hockey more. So that seems like just kind of like the obvious next level. It gives you a chance to learn the rules a little bit better. Especially, I would assume as a goalie, you're probably fairly familiar with all the rules that belong to goaltenders. Stuff like getting into frays after a whistle, stuff like when you're allowed to smother the puck, stuff like shooting the puck over the glass, where you're allowed to play the puck, all that kind of stuff. It's as a goalie, that's pretty important to have that communication with a ref and let them know how much space you need in your net, how much space the other team's giving you, and that back and forth. But yeah, as a ref, it gave me that extra dimension to see, like, when I talk to refs about what I want to see happen for my team, because I'll, every game I'd be pleading a case for my team, like, you guys are gonna call more slashing penalties. They're getting their sticks up, and less tripping penalties because we take those, so don't call those. But and I think that was kind of it. It was just, I needed to find a part-time job, and it was very obvious, I'm gonna learn a lot more about hockey by going this way.
What do you have some interesting, like what are some really interesting conversations that you have as a goalie? Like I mean between goalie and ref, maybe you as a ref or you as a goalie. What are some things that you were talked about?
Uh, usually the most interesting ones are if I miss covering a puck and I get a whistle anyway. Usually
Yeah.
a ref will come over and say, "Oh, I had your back on that one, so better be thanking me." Stuff like that. The other things are if my team is we talk about different divisions. If my team is playing two divisions above where they probably ought to be playing, the ref will probably come over and let me know that, don't worry about letting in goals here. Your team should never be your team should be in this game as close as they are, and they'll, refs are
Yeah.
usually pretty, and I did the same as a ref. Refs are usually pretty big fans of the goaltenders and usually have a pretty good
Mm.
relationship with them throughout a game.
Mm. Is there anything that like a routine that you would do for any game that you go, like as a goalie? Like, would you go to the ref like and talk about something? Like, do you have some sort of habits on that?
I typically don't have to talk to a ref until something comes up that really bothers me in a game. Um,
Okay.
so it's I don't know I know there's a lot of complaining about refs, especially in beer league. My team does it all the time. Um, but as far as I'm concerned, a lot of the officials we get are actually pretty good. So I don't try to over criticize the refereeing and stuff like that. I find it usually works itself out, and at our level,
Mm.
one or two bad calls here or there is not going to decide a game compared to what the teams can do on the ice. It's just not worth it to bug the officials over nothing as
Yeah.
long as people are safe.
Yeah. I For me it's kind of interesting. For me it's like I think it really depends on that game that day. How do I feel when I first start? Like do I feel I want to socialize or not? I don't have a routine of doing that, but sometimes when I'm like my energy is there, and I will always talk to the ref, um, to just say hi and just like, hey, watch out for me, those kind of things, and they will laugh at it, and whether they're actually doing it or not, I think it's always good to be friend with referee, and I think they truly can be your friend during the game when it comes to just having some fun, just having some weird conversation, and I think that's what I see a lot of other YouTubers who also take the goalie cams. They love to mic up and see like the conversation they have with the ref. I love to hearing those. I'm not as like I don't have a huge sense of humor in compared to a lot of the people who mic'd up. I always kind of just talk about how I feel, like, oh, it sucks, like, damn it, like, I'm relatively competitive, and I'm not so fun as a as a goalie who just kind of like say like random stuff. So do you see yourself kind of talking to your players a lot when you're a goalie, or you kind of stay quiet?
I talk to my players all the time, but I think I've had quite a bit of a background playing hockey, and there's when you grow up with coaches and stuff like that, there's things you see that aren't always necessarily obvious with other things.
Yeah.
And usually when like I look at levels of beer league hockey, I usually dictate like, well, what a level looks like by how well you can hit a player in stride with a pass. If I'm playing at a level where all the passes are made from guys standing still and the receiver's standing still, I'm like, okay, this is a really low level of hockey. If I'm seeing a pass
Mm.
made by a guy who's moving at full speed to another guy that's moving at full speed, I'm thinking this is a real high level of hockey. And typically most of my discussions with my players are revolve around, okay, you guys got to find this way to get hit with a pass with speed, and I'll talk to them about all that all game. I'll watch the other goalie, and I'll try to see what I think he's doing wrong, and try
Mm.
to give my players that information. If I see a goalie that's up right too far, I'll say you got to look low shots in the corners. If I see a goalie that's down early, I tell my players you got to hold on to the puck a little bit and pick your spots, stuff like that. Like I'll be telling them stuff through the entire intermission, and I'm a big puck player as well, so I'll let my players know as they're moving around and stuff like that.
I would love to hear your thoughts on this because it seems like you're very communicative. I'm also trying to be very communicative to my team, but when it comes down to you playing, you're always playing with different teams, and you have all kinds of players, all kinds of levels. What would be the most common thing that you would tell the team about in terms of the level that you play? Is it like you talk about a lot of different things in your answer, like the speed, the positioning, pick a spot, right? Like what are some general things that you find that you will always have to remind your team on as a goalie?
If I'm playing with a group of players where a number of them didn't play growing up, it'll be warm-ups. Will be my number one thing I'll talk to them about, and everybody, I'll remind them in warm-up. The number one thing as a goalie I want to warm up is my eyes. So I want to see shots from the top of the circles. I want to see the pucks come into me, and I don't want to see players trying to deke me, I don't want to take 5 shots from below the hash marks to start my warm-up, stuff like that. Like that's the biggest thing I'll communicate with teams right off the get-go. If I expect that it's that kind of level, I'll just say, well, this is what I want from a warm-up. And then the second thing I'll warn them is that I like to go out and play the puck. So be ready, because I'm going to fire those passes all the way up the ice if I can see you. And especially when you get that second period with the long line change, I want my team to be ready to. I think you've seen this in beer league before, where a team will ice the puck, but and go off for a line change before the puck's
Oh
been
yeah,
iced.
yeah, happens a lot on my level.
And as a goalie, those are the second periods I dream of, because I'm sitting there like, all right, your team's going to the bench, and I have the puck. I can hit my team up there, and so I like to let my team know about that, and I like to let my team know what I expect in a warm up. I mean too.
I assume those are done in the dressing room, like before the game starts, or like you kind of do it like all the time, like talk to your defense and stuff.
Those two would be, yeah, dressing room, and then once I get on the ice, it's trying to keep the chatter up and stuff like that. It's another thing that I kind of picked up from coaches when I was growing up, is you don't want it to be a library out on the ice. You want to be communicating with each other, let them know where the pressure's coming from, let them know the side that they've got if they're looking for an outlet pass, all that good stuff. And even visual cues, I'm always trying to tell my team, if you want to pass, point your stick to where you want the pass to go and then skate to that area, because it just allows people to communicate to each other on the ice so much better. And you want, as a team, you want that communication.
Can you go a little bit deeper on that? Like, I found it very interesting because I would never think that way. I would like, for the longest time, I wanted to try to coach my team because, like, I think the biggest thing that for me when I first started beer league hockey is like, I thought the team's gonna have some sort of coach. That's why it's like, oh yeah, you have someone guide you and all that. But at the end of the day, it's just like nobody freaking guide anybody. Like there's no coaching. There's no like, if your team really doesn't know what to do, they don't really know what to do. Like there's no someone who is more experienced who can tell them like, hey, you should do this or you should do that. Can you elaborate that a little bit more with the like the passing part? Like, can you like?
Oh yeah, yeah. That gets right into it. Like if I'm playing with a team that hasn't had that background knowledge and doesn't know.
Yeah.
Different systems, I can talk about some different systems, but passing things is one of the biggest things that I'm always trying to tell people, because I don't think newer players see it. But when you're on an ice, you want to look for your passing lanes, which are the lines in the ice you can draw between opposition players that you could fire a puck through. And you don't necessarily want to just be doing that as the player with the puck, but anyone who wants to get the puck also wants to be doing that. They want to think, okay, where can I draw a line from the puck to me that's not going to hit an opposition player? And in order to get those lines to open up, you have to be moving your feet. You have to be getting to certain areas of the ice. And you can tell your team, if you can pass the puck around this defenseman, I'll get to that puck and I'll have a breakaway or something like that. If you can pass the puck around this forward, I can get to that puck. So you just let them know by holding your stick out to the direction you're going to skate to and getting to that point, and they'll fire a pass up ahead of you, and you race up the ice and meet that pass. It just kind of goes back to that. I determine the level I'm playing at by how fast you can hit players who are skating with a pass.
Mm-hmm. So you would advise them to do this when you see they're not moving their feet a lot, or?
Yeah, when they're not moving their feet, and especially when they're whining about not getting passes, because
I see.
it's a very common complaint in beer league, especially for new players. New players who aren't playing goal but coming out as a skater. They'll come out onto the ice and they'll be like, "Well, why is no one passing me the puck?" And the obvious answer is, well, you're standing still, and if they pass you the puck, you've got no speed, so the other team just gets on top of you, they take the puck, and come the other way. But as soon as you move your feet and you let them know, okay, I want the puck, and this is where I'm going to take the puck, then they can just throw you the puck right there and be, okay, you've got the puck.
Very cool. I love it because I'm learning here. Like, that's something that I always just like. I want to contribute to the team, but like, what can I say? Like, what do I look out for, right? Because I think for me, especially when I'm playing in a level that I'm always focused, it's really hard for me to see how the team plays too. But it's always good to, if I got the chance to slow down and actually see the team, because I always see goalie has a very unique vision for the whole ice, right? Like, you probably would agree. It's like you see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're a player in the bench, you have to go like this to see everything. Like us, it's like if you go through, like, you see everything like this. So like, I always learning how can I help the team better for their play, so that it's more like a proactive action so that we can attack better, we can defense better, rather than being reactive. When the puck comes to you, just kind of do your own thing. So if you don't mind me asking, what would be another thing that you would you often find the beer league players that needs help on, that you will often advise, other than the passing part?
Well, you reminded me, we didn't even talk about defending. I have to talk to my defensemen all the time about different things that I want to see, and and I'm sure this applies to you as well. When someone's coming in on your defenseman, there's a certain point where you want them to make the shot from, and you want your defenseman to stop backing into you. And kind of finding that with your defenseman, talking to them about that after a shot happens, and say, I'd prefer it if you stood him up at this point. If he beats you at that point, great. He's close enough to me that I can react to whatever move he's going to make. But I don't want him to be able to use you as a screen once you're below the hash marks and stuff like that. So that's just another thing I'll point out to players. If we see the other team cycling in the zone, and actually I've got, the team that I play on has a number of players that do coaching for their kids' teams. They've played hockey for a while, and they'll pick up on this a lot. Is if we see the way that a team's going to attack us, if they're throwing the puck back to the point a lot, we're going to tell our wingers to get up to their point man and to make sure that they're looking more towards defense than just breaking out. If we see them attacking down low with numbers on a single side, we'll talk to our centerman about, you need to support our defenseman and make sure that if he goes to a player, you're there to cover his spot, and you're able to pick up any loose pucks that come out of that area. It's just one of those things where once you see the other team kind of taking advantage of a weakness in your team, you want to talk to your team and say, well, what are we going to do about this? What's our plan of action?
You remind me of one situation that I run into over and over again. It's usually when I'm doing pretty good making save, and the team defense is kind of mediocre. They sometimes we have one guy who is usually you can tell too, like, usually the better players, they play as a D in beer league hockey because they can like cover everything, they can skate faster and all that. But sometimes my team, some of the defense would go in and they will leave a lot of space. Like, if they lose the puck, then like breakaway almost guaranteed. That's one thing that I found over and over again. Another thing that happens over and over again is on the second period when I'm doing okay, when the team is doing okay, then the opposite team will start to do something different where they will always keep the puck behind the net and just get me down all the time, so they have more space to shoot at. I really don't know how to talk to my defense on that. How to kind of counter that, right? Like it's like they don't know what to do when people start to play around the net and cycle and all that stuff. Like, what would you say to your team or your defense on that as a goalie?
So my team's usually kind of fits in that first scenario that you're talking about. Our better players are defensemen, so they're
Yeah.
actually pretty good about that kind of situation where you want to have that communication between your goalie and your defenseman, because if you're got your head swerving back behind you, you want to be able to keep your eye on the puck, but you know you're going to have to lose it for a second. And in those
Hmm.
seconds, you want your defenseman to be talking to you, and you want them to be saying, "Okay, I've got this side of the net covered. You're going to hold. They're going to hold a post for you, and you're going to be able to, cheat to the other side post and be able to look across before you slide into that, because you know that your defenseman's there to stop an immediate wraparound play. So you want to kind of talk to your defenseman about how hard are we chasing them into the corner? Are we covering the backside with the defenseman who's staying in front of the goal line and making sure that that wraparound can't happen? Are we ever sending two people behind our net, because we definitely don't want to chase two people down low and leave the whole front of the net open once that once that puck pops back out. So that's usually the conversation we'll have, is how are we chasing people behind the net, and my defensemen are going to communicate with me and say, okay, I've got this post, or get to the other side, puck's over there, puck's coming here, stuff like that. Just keeping that chatter up so that you know what to expect.
Oh man, I'm learning so much here, and I think what Kett has been covering here is just a tip of the iceberg. Like right now, I just want to go deeper on that, but I think this a little bit out of the topic that we have in today's stream. We probably can talk a little bit more. One last question I want to ask Kett is: do you ever regret that you transitioned from skaters to goalie?
Oh, best choice ever.
No,
Best
best
choice.
choice ever.
That's an easy question all day. The goalie's the best position.
Have you ever go back to being skaters though? Like once you become a goalie.
Yeah, I've skated out. Every now and then I'll get invited to do like a tournament, or if
Hmm.
things aren't going well and we need to shake things up for a bit. Sometimes I'll skate out a game. Last year we were running into this problem where you go into the playoffs and the only goalies that can play for your team are goalies that have played at least one game. And I had played every game for our team up to that point and
Hmm.
was going into playoffs during my exam season. So I needed to play out for a game just so that we could get another goalie named to the roster
Ah,
for
okay. Yeah, I
playoffs and
got it.
stuff like
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
there's reasons to there's reasons to play out for sure, but it would be very weird for me to ever join a team again as a permanent skater.
That's very very cool. I feel like I don't think I've ever seen anyone or met anyone who are so attached to the goalie position when they actually have so much experience being a skater. Like how you transition. It was very very interesting to hear. And another takeaway that I have for this show is there are just so much things that a goalie can contribute other than making save on the game, like the communication they do with the team, the level of awareness that you have on the ice is just like, to me, it's the one of the best thing I like about being a goalie. It's that aspects of it. Like, you don't have to be super good to contribute to the team. If you are able to communicate the way the team understands and change the game that way, you are also making a huge contribution. Being a goalie in hockey. So, yeah, that to me is just fascinating, and I love so much about beer league hockey.
I think you can see that as an example at the NHL level. The goalie with the most wins ever in the NHL is Martin Brodeur. He wasn't the
Mm,
best
mm,
goalie at stopping the puck. He was the best
mm,
goalie at moving the puck for his team, communicating with them, and really working within his
mm.
team's system. And we can all kind of learn from that. That it's
that is the part that I don't think a lot of people actually see exactly how things are done, right? Like it's like in NHL, all you see is, people, players moving around. Like you don't really see the behind the scene, like what a goalie contributes. Um, what would be like one last question? What would be the thing that you think? Like you said Martin Brodeur, like I don't know. Like it's funny that you mentioned it because I personally, because there's a year Winter Olympics in Vancouver, right? There's the debate like is Brodeur the better goalie or the Luongo the better goalie? Playing the net. I'm so attached to Luongo because he plays for the Canucks. I'm from Vancouver. I also know that I really feel that Luongo is a better, like in terms of making save the position. I feel like he's a better goalie, but I also know that must be something reason that people love Brodeur better. Like what do you have to say about kind of his style of plays and why would, like you mentioned something about him playing with the puck and all that. Like what make him so special?
Uh, Teams really had to. So one, he was a phenomenal goalie in his own right for making saves, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You don't see his style ever taught anymore because he was a hybrid butterfly stand-up goalie, which you don't really see taught because once Waugh and players like him came in with the butterfly, people moved to that, which is it's interesting. We're never going to see another Marty Brodeur, but he really changed how teams would approach coming into the zone. So he had his defensemen stand up other teams at the blue line. Scott Stevens made a career out of just making these huge hits when teams tried to carry the puck over the blue line against him and stuff like that. And they tried to force other teams to play a dump and chase game where they trap defensemen behind the net and pull the puck off of those defensemen. And Brodeur was so proficient at handling the puck that when a puck got shot behind his net, he could pick it up, take a look, and fire it to a member on his team, and very quickly just get the puck back out of the zone. So you had this goalie that teams felt they weren't confident carrying the puck over the line against the defense, and they weren't confident dumping the puck in against the goalie because they felt they could just never retrieve the puck in the other team's end. And that's one of the reasons why Brodeur was very special in the league.
That, oh man, like I feel like this conversation just opened a new, like another world to me. It's just like, it's not just making save. It's like the way you talk to the team, the way you can, if you have that confidence and conviction that you know exactly what your team wants to do and you can experiment and all that. Like there's just, you just open up another whole world that you can do as a goalie in any level of hockey.
Oh yeah, get out and play the puck if you're inclined to that part of your game. That's a fun part, and you should just always be talking because the more you talk with your teammates, the more you understand each other, the more you know what to expect about the next shift and what's going to happen.
Yeah. I got to say I'm still in the level of it's also really interesting because despite playing like 6 years of goalie, when I go through all the trainings that I have, at least my coach, before I reached a certain level, we never focus on puck handling. Almost never. And as a matter of fact, I still suck at puck handling. Like now I'm more confident. Like, oh, the puck come at me, I'll be willing to actually put my stick out there and actually stop it and like past it. Before that, I'm like, I don't even want to touch it. I'm like, oh, what if I like mishandle it and then like letting stupid goes. But now I'm a lot better on that. But you mentioned about how, if you are able to just take risks and actually do something about puck handling puck, try passing, like it would, I think, add so much more aspects to your game. And I'm doing a lot more on that, like stopping puck, controlling the puck, especially when that's something that I also always keep in mind when my team is on power play. I'm like, okay, that means I have to be like, oh, I need to like help the team and actually, because usually when the other team actually dump the puck in a lot more often, and there's no icing, I have to like, oh, okay, I gotta play the puck, right? Now I have more awareness of that. But yeah, from I don't know, from the way I see you speak, I'm like, I know you're in such a different level than I I am in terms of the awareness, the way you think, the way I think about the game. So it's fascinating, and I think that makes you so unique about having the experience playing minor hockey before to now you being a goalie. It's like I would never have that, so I have so much more to learn from you on that.
Well, I think we all have our gaps. Like when I was transitioning between playing ice skater, playing ice goalie, I played ball hockey goal out at outdoor rinks and stuff like that, and I picked up this weird habit where every time a ball would come to me, I just instantly want to play it because you just keep the game moving instead of. And one of the things I had to learn as an ice hockey goalie playing in games was your team wants you to jump on that puck, even if that puck's not necessarily coming right at you. You got to get that whistle for your team in order to reset. And
Yeah.
the more you play, the more you just learn, and that's something that I struggled with for a long time. Is I would keep these pucks alive that were essentially giving the other team a power play because my team was so tired.
Yeah. Everybody have a different things to learn from just playing the sports, and that's what I so much love about the position and hockey in general. Like I never got that from any other sports that I play. The spectrum of things you can do, things you can learn, not just your position, but yeah, it's so good, and that's the reason why I really want to bring the awareness to the world about how fascinating this sports can be and how much you can do and how much fun you can have in beer league hockey. Maybe college hockey is not for you. Maybe the really competitive level side is not for you. Well, you have a really big different levels of recreational hockey to get yourself into, and if you just on the edge or you're just kind of knowing more about hockey, it's just like just try it, just get yourself on the ice. And especially now it's so like I miss hockey so much just because of that. I'm like I feel like I lost that lifestyle that I have, that I could keep myself learning outside the normal things that I do in life. It's just like when you're on the ice, when you're on the rink, you're just a totally different person.
Oh yeah, like your whole day when you've got a hockey game that night, the whole day's just that much better.
Cool. Well, we are kind of running out of time here with the show that we've set up. Kett, very very appreciate that you come here, and I learned so much today. I'm not discrediting any other guest that I have, but I learned the most from you out of all the show that I've done, and you add so much value in the community. You add so much perspective, what we can learn as beer league hockey goalie in general. So I really really thankful for you to come here.
Well, I'm glad I can help out with what I have, and yeah, thank you for having me on. And I've been loving the first 3 episodes so far, and can't wait to see what you got next.
Yeah, many more to come. So for anyone who's interested in what's coming up, I'm planning out a new theme for February right now. I'm still yet to decide. I have something on my whiteboard right now, just kind of writing some ideas out. I have some ideas already, but if you want to really know more about kind of what's coming up, what's the next episode looks like, one, you can add me, on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, or you can join my Discord server if you use Discord. I have an Asian goalie committee set up over there, and we can PM each other if you have any new ideas you want to talk about. Like I would love to hear from you on that too as well. So if you want to keep in touch, there's many ways to do it, and I personally would promise that I will respond to every single questions. Sometimes may not be as quickly as you would want to, but I treasure every single comments and anything that you guys have in terms of you want to talk anything about beer league hockey. So thanks again, Kett. Thank you very so much on coming here. I know I got so much more engagement today in compared to the 3 other episodes that I made. So it must be you, that you have some secret power that we're here. So have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll see you guys on the next stream.